From the CNN Global headquarters in Atlanta, this is CNN Sunday Night. Back from the brink, Aristide steps aside, and just moments ago, the United Nations unanimously authorizes an international peacekeeping force to Haiti. What's next for the people there?
The Marines have landed, about 100 of them, briskly marching off a C-130 U.S. military aircraft, the first of a much larger contingent coming to this strike-torn nation.
I'm Suzanne, although at the White House, where President Bush and his top aides agree that Aristide's departure is a very important, significant, positive development, but at the same time recognize it's still a dangerous and unpredictable situation on the ground. That is why U.S. Marines will arrive in Haiti tonight to try to secure the peace.
I'm Candace Gibson, live at the 76th Annual Academy Awards, where it's already turning out to be a very good night for the Lord of the Rings. Details to come.
A lot more now. Good evening, everyone. I'm Carol Lynn, and thanks so much for joining us. Up front tonight, the men who want President Bush's job debate in New York, and Hollywood's buzzing about its choices for president. Also, Kobe Bryant's accuser testifies this week about her sexual past. How far will defense attorneys get to probe? That is tonight's rap sheet. And it's the top film at the box office, but how accurate is The Passion? We take the question to an expert. But first, here's a look at the stories making headlines tonight and tomorrow. One step closer to democracy in Iraq. Governing council members agree on the text of an interim constitution a day after the self-imposed deadline. The document is expected to be signed Wednesday. History in the making. Haiti's president is out, and U.S. forces are on the ground to help restore order as Haiti makes a tough transition. Search suspended. The Coast Guard abandons its search for 18 people missing in a tanker explosion off the coast of Virginia for at least the night. 6 crew members were rescued after last night's disaster. 3 were found dead. Awaiting court, a cousin questioned in the disappearance of a missing family from Mississippi is to appear in court tomorrow. Ernest Hargan was charged today with drug and firearms violations. More charges are expected. But we begin tonight in Haiti, a country under new leadership and continuing chaos. U.S. Marines are now on the ground securing facilities for a multinational force. The country is now being run by Haiti's Supreme Court Chief Justice, sworn in after President Aristide's departure. His whereabouts are unknown. Now, in hopes of restoring order, the United Nations moments ago unanimously approved a resolution to send an international peacekeeping force to Haiti. Right now, we're going to go live to Richard Roth, our senior UN correspondent there, for the very latest on this vote. Richard, how did it go down, and what are the implications of this decision?
Well, the most important thing to note is that it was unanimous. It was a 15-0 vote by the UN Security Council just moments ago. And the resolution calls for a multinational force led by now the U.S. for up to 3 months. After that, it's the UN's turn to try to keep the peace. The resolution also, in effect, calls on everybody to cooperate with this force, and it gives them the power to defend themselves, if necessary, under the strictest terms of the United Nations Charter. There was some concern by the UN that they wouldn't be ready to go in 2 months, so that's why they moved the window for the multinational force to be to 3 months. This is the international legitimacy needed for the forces from the U.S., France, and whoever joins to go into Haiti, so it doesn't look like anybody is invading. The Council was always ready to do this, but they weren't going to get involved in a civil war. Now that the situation with Aristide has changed a bit, people are ready to approve a mission there now. Carol.
All right, thank you very much, Richard Roth, for the very latest from the United Nations. In just a few minutes, I'm going to be speaking with a former ambassador to Haiti, the United States former ambassador to Haiti, about what may happen next and the U.S.'s role there. In the meantime, President Bush is facing heat for sending U.S. Marines into Haiti. At this stage of the game, CNN White House correspondent Suzanne Malveaux joins us with the very latest from the White House Live. Suzanne.
Well, Carol, the first of several hundred U.S. Marines left their base this evening from Camp Lejeune, North Carolina to Haiti. They're joining Canadian as well as French forces on the ground there. This is all a part of a rapid response team to try to restore order as quickly as possible.
U.S. officials say the deal for Aristide to leave was brokered overnight, with Secretary of State Colin Powell making calls to the U.S. ambassador, cabinet members, and his counterparts in Canada, France, and the Caribbean. By the end of the day, President Bush was sending U.S. forces to Haiti to clear the way for peace.
This is the beginning of a new chapter in the country's history.
Aristide capitulated and asked the U.S. to facilitate his departure. Mr. Bush signed the executive order to send in U.S. troops.
I have ordered the deployment of Marines as the leading element of an interim international force to help bring order and stability to Haiti.
Several hundred U.S. Marines are charged with securing key facilities in Haiti to lay the ground for an international stabilization force. U.S. officials, sensitive to the perception that the U.S. might be invading Haiti, were quick to say the troops were welcomed and invited. In fact, Haitian rebel leader Guy Philippe told CNN he would fully cooperate with U.S. forces.
We don't intend to fight anymore. Time is not for fighting anymore.
On the diplomatic front, U.S. officials say they will work with the international community to support the so-called Caribbean Community Plan, which would allow opposition groups to share power with the new Haitian government.
Haiti is close to our shores, and the consequences of what happens there, the consequences for the United States, for Americans, are enormous.
And with that, like Mr. Bush's policy regarding Afghanistan and Iraq, now his handling of Haiti is under close scrutiny by those who want his job and his critics.
I never would have allowed it to get out of control the way it did. This administration empowered the insurgents.
He neglected Haiti. He neglected actually most of the countries in this hemisphere.
We are just as much a part of this coup d'etat as the rebels, as the looters, or anyone else.
Now, unlike the conflict with the war with Iraq, the U.S. is working alongside the French to stabilize Haiti. The Bush administration's hope here, of course, is that not only can they garner broader international support, but also they want to keep it. Carol?
So, Suzanne, ultimately, how involved does the president want to be in Haiti's political outcome?
Well, certainly they want a significant role, but they don't want to be isolated. They are really emphasizing this international aspect of all of this because they don't want it to be perceived as the big U.S. footprint that is on Haiti. They are emphasizing that the Caribbean leaders are a part of this, that they want the Haitian people to take the lead in all of this. They are very sensitive to the perception that they could be seen as imperialistic.
All right, thank you very much, Suzanne Malveaux. Very late today at the White House. Well, the departure of President Aristide hasn't brought an end to the chaos and killing in Haiti. CNN's Lucia Newman joins us now by video phone from Port-au-Prince for the very latest on the situation there. Lucia, are there still armed gunmen in the streets, fires burning, chaos reigning?
Good evening, Carol. Well, at this moment, there is a curfew now that's been imposed by Haiti's new government in the city precisely to try to curb some of that violence, the violence that had submerged this country into chaos, the same chaos that finally convinced President Jean-Bertrand Aristide to step down.
The news of President Jean-Bertrand Aristide's departure spread like wildfire as opponents celebrated. And armed supporters of the former president roamed the streets, setting barricades on fire and killing people. With an insurgent army demanding his resignation closing in on the capital, Jean-Bertrand Aristide left shortly after dawn, telling his prime minister he wanted to avoid a bloodbath.
It's with the hope that the Constitution will not be betrayed that he decided, he accepted to make such a great sacrifice.
Haiti's new interim president, as stipulated by the Constitution, is the Supreme Court President Boniface Alexander, a man with a reputation for honesty. He appealed to Haitians to refrain from acts of vengeance and violence. I call on all citizens to respect the norms governing a civilized society, he said. As Washington announced the imminent arrival of a peacekeeping force, the leader of the insurgents that control half of Haiti told CNN he would in fact welcome the U.S. Marines.
I think the worst is over now, and we're waiting for the international force to, they will have full cooperation.
Some of the insurgents came out from their sleeper cells and began patrolling the streets of the capital to help the police, they said, restore law and order in troubled areas where the former president had strong support. The rebels say they'll respect the new government and democratic elections, but they're demanding that Haiti reinstate its disbanded army, an army which in the past has ruled with brutality and repeatedly overthrown elected governments.
One of the other wild cards, of course, Carol, is what will the armed supporters of the now former president do? Will they be willing to welcome the U.S. and other international peacekeepers as well as the insurgents say that they will? And also there's the question of the armed insurgents themselves. They say they will disarm, but they haven't said when, Carol.
We're going to find out a lot in the next 48 hours. Thank you very much. Lucia Newman reporting live in Port-au-Prince. Well, now that Aristide appears gone for good, what does it mean for Haiti? William Jones served as U.S. ambassador to Haiti during the Carter administration, and he joins us now live from Los Angeles. Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much for being with us on a very important day for both Haiti as well as the Bush administration and the United Nations. You've heard that the Security Council has authorized a multinational force there. I also want to share with you and our audience something that the UN Secretary General told CNN earlier today.
This time, I hope the international community is not going to put a band-aid on, and that we are not only going to help stabilize the current situation, but assist the Haitians over the long haul and really help them pick up the pieces and build a stable country.
Which, Mr. Ambassador, brings us to the question, we were here 10 years ago with Haiti. Why would peacekeepers this time around, the potential for new elections this time around, turn out any differently for the Haitians than it already has?
Well, last time we only stayed 2 years, and given the conditions in Haiti, that simply wasn't long enough. I think that the words of Secretary General Kofi Annan were right on target. I think that you have to take a long-term approach in Haiti. There are no quick or easy solutions. It is a problem for the international community. It certainly should not be looked at as a unilateral problem for the United States. I think thus far the United Nations has taken exactly the right step. I think that a multinational force is the only way to go. I would hope that the violence would lessen. I would hope that all sides would be willing to disarm and move forward under a government of national unity. I think it is unfortunate that President Aristide was overthrown. He was democratically elected, but I think we have to move forward now and look at what is best for Haiti in the long term.
Be as specific as you can be. What exactly does that mean? Peacekeepers presumably would restore order on the ground. What is going to restore democracy?
Well, first of all, you have to maintain order. Secondly, you have to provide for the humanitarian needs of the country. Thirdly, you have to reorganize the government and the infrastructure. You have to get the telephones working, the electricity, the water system, the airport working, the roads working. Once you have the country fairly well stabilized, then and only then you can begin to develop a political solution. I do not think that just rushing into elections is the answer. I think you have to look over the long term. Certainly elections are necessary, but I don't think they should be rushed into.
But you've also flat out said that the international community should impose more restrictions on Haiti in order to bring Haiti into the family of nations. What does that mean?
Absolutely. I think that the international community has to monitor the Haitian government. I think all aid and assistance to the government of Haiti, whatever government that may be, would have to be controlled by the international community. I think you have to set benchmarks so that there has to be certain things achieved before additional aid is given. I think there has to be a rational, sound, fair electoral process. I think the days of demagoguery should be over in Haiti. I think that Haitians now should take responsibility for their own acts. I think that it's a long-term solution. I don't think that just in a few years that Haiti can be turned around. I think the international community will have to advise and help and monitor and guide and promote Haiti for quite a few more years to come.
And you see for that length of time U.S. Marines, U.S. troops on the ground in Haiti?
No, I don't. I don't see why the United States troops should remain any longer than is necessary, whatever that is, to maintain order. There can be a rotation of forces. They may not even be needed. the Haitians may be able to develop a sophisticated or reasonably sophisticated police force under international monitoring and control. So I do not think that the United States or any of the other national forces should expect to stay a long time in Haiti. Certainly they'll have to stay a while, but I would say not too long.
All right, let us hope. Thank you very much, William Jones, former U.S. ambassador to Haiti.
Thank you.
Now, we want your view. How involved should the U.S. be in Haiti's transition? Give us a call at 1-800-807-2620. We're going to air some of your responses at the end of the program. In the meantime, still ahead on CNN Sunday Night, locking horns, a nomination at stake. The Democratic candidates get feisty. Who will survive this week's 10-state showdown? Also ahead, a battle in Hollywood.
Will the 76th Annual Academy Awards basically be another coronation ceremony for the Lord of the Rings? We're going to have the details coming up.
Thanks, Candace. And another celebrity in the spotlight. Big decisions in the Kobe Bryant case this week. His alleged victim to testify. Stay with us.
CNN Sunday Night is brought to you by CVS Pharmacy.
CNN, America's campaign headquarters.
The four Democratic presidential candidates today squared off one last time before the Super Tuesday contest in 10 states. And while they were united in their attacks on the Bush administration's handling of the Haiti crisis, they quarreled over economic issues and sometimes the debate itself. National correspondent Kelly Wallace reports.
Let them finish, but it was not pretty. The Democratic presidential candidates tangling more with the questioners than with each other. With the Reverend Al Sharpton charging the New York City debate was turning into a Kerry Edwards forum.
What you're trying to do is try to decide for the voters how we go forward. The voters need to hear this morning from four candidates.
And that was just the beginning. It was a more forceful John Edwards than we saw in Thursday's debate on CNN. This time he quickly pounced on John Kerry and his proposal for a 120-day review of all trade agreements.
What you're going to say to a family that's lost their job because of bad trade agreements is, don't worry, we got a Washington committee that's studying this for you.
The Democratic frontrunner, who overall seemed more subdued than their last face-off, took this opportunity to fire back.
John Edwards has been in the Senate for 5 years. He's talked more in the last 5 weeks about trade than he has in the entire 5 years.
This was perhaps the senator from North Carolina's last chance to change the dynamics before Tuesday's 10 presidential contest. The Massachusetts senator touted his experience, but questioners asked, is he likable enough to beat President Bush?
Give me a living room, give me a barn, give me a VFW hall, give me a one-on-one, and I think I can talk to anybody in this country.
I don't think this is a personality contest. I think what people are looking for in a president is somebody who, when they hear them speak, speaks their language.
The question now is, did this debate change any minds? John Edwards, trailing in the polls in the Super Tuesday states, had the most to gain. John Kerry, so far out in front, had the most to lose. Kelly Wallace, CNN, New York.
So let's take a closer look at what's at stake for the candidates on Super Tuesday. Specifically, does Senator Edwards really have a chance? For that, we turn to Jenny Backus, a Democratic strategist in Washington, and Tara Setmayer, a Republican strategist in Miami. Good evening, ladies.
Good evening.
Let me share a California field poll, just one of 10 states, but a pretty good indication of what we're finding across the board here. There it is, John Kerry at 60%, John Edwards at 19%. So far, it looks like John Kerry is going to run away with Super Tuesday. We don't know, of course, until the big day. But John Edwards, how much pressure is he going to get from the Democratic Party to drop out of this race if he does not really pick up steam on Tuesday, Jenny?
Well, I think, first of all, we want to be very careful looking at polls a couple of days before the primary. We saw this in Wisconsin. We saw this in a couple of other states. We saw it last year when Howard Dean everyone thought the whole race was over with Howard Dean. But you do have to say that John Kerry is definitely the front runner going into Super Tuesday. John Edwards has his eye on a couple of key states. He's going to try to sort of make a surprise Wisconsin come from behind showing in places like Ohio, Minnesota, Georgia. And maybe Maryland. There, you know, John Kerry did change his schedule this week to go to Maryland.
But Jenny, you're a strategist. You're a strategist, and everything that our analysts are telling us is that, look, the Democrats out there, they want a winner. They want someone that they can put up against George W. Bush. And if
sure.
It, you know, if it means that
you saw it today in the debate. I mean, we have two absolutely great candidates. We have John Kerry, a person of strength and character, who's tough, who's the kind of guy who won't leave the average American family behind, whether or not it's in combat or in real life.
Get in here.
Kerry,
no,
it's
true.
Know about the average American family. Are you kidding?
Are you kidding? John Kerry is a guy who, in battle, turned the boat around and went back to rescue someone.
Yes,
and if you look at America as a boat today, if you look at America as a boat today,
okay, listen, what the Democrats want to do, there's going to be a lot of pressure on John Edwards to withdraw from this race after Tuesday, maybe at the latest March 9th because of Florida. They want to be able to focus their message on attacking George Bush because they know that we Republicans have a $150 million war chest that we're going to apply because John Kerry's record is going to be exposed. And they need to concentrate on that.
That's very interesting. You talked about President Bush's big commercial box that's going to come up next week. It's because he's nervous. It's kind of like the ads in the Super Bowl. You spend $1 million and then no one remembers what the heck it was all about at the end. He's very nervous, President Bush. He's nervous because Democrats are optimistic and visionary. And John Edwards and John Kerry and all of our candidates have run together with one unified message. So whatever happens on Super Tuesday,
I couldn't tell that today. I mean, the Democrats have been they've been fighting against one another for so long. Of course they're going to all unite against attacking Bush. That's obvious. We're not stating anything that no one already knows already.
You're missing the message that's happening. Here's the most important thing that I'll say. It's got 4 letters in it. It's called Ohio. Right now in Ohio, which was a big, fat, red state for George Bush, Democrats, John Kerry, John Edwards are out there every day picking up endorsements from Republican newspapers because they are recognizing that Americans are being left behind by the Bush economy. And that's what's happening. It's pure and simple. And Democrats have an optimistic vision.
336,000 jobs have been created. More people have gotten more money back from their tax returns this year. The American people are not being left behind.
You're going to tell that to the people?
Can I finish speaking, or are you going to interrupt me the whole time? The American people are getting money back on their tax returns. The economy has been record-breaking growth, and people, once the Republican Party focuses on the election campaign, they will see what the president has done. They will highlight that, and all the attacks from John Kerry and John Edwards during a Democratic primary season will not be an issue anymore.
How worried are the Republicans about a John Kerry, John Edwards ticket?
I don't really think they're that worried. It's 2 senators with 2 records that we have an ability to reference and that they have to be held accountable for. So
what about George Bush's record?
Words like we can tout George Bush's record. We can tout George Bush's record. This country is safer.
The most amount of jobs lost since Herbert Hoover. People in this country who are independents and Republicans flocking into Democratic primaries because they want to send a message that it's not okay for 500 Americans. Families and soldiers to get killed in Iraq with no end game in sight.
But the American people still believe this was a just war. We are a safer place. George Bush was
assertive. It doesn't matter what you think about the war. What's the end game?
It matters what the
are
end
we
game
safer?
Is that George Bush,
We're not
yes,
safer.
We are. We are safer now that Saddam Hussein is no longer in power, that there's stability will come to that region, and Iraq will have a democratic election, and those people are grateful that we're there.
We can at least agree that certainly Saddam Hussein is no longer in power and Osama bin Laden is still on the loose. And on that note, you know, we strive for balance here at CNN. Thank you very much, Tara Setmayer, Jenny Backus, for joining us tonight. Super Tuesday, still ahead. Also still ahead on CNN Sunday night, a politically active Hollywood. Hi, Bill Schneider.
Hi, Carol. You know, they're getting behind John Kerry here in Hollywood, but he was not their first choice. Who was? Here's a hint. It wasn't Howard Dean.
Oh, but he's got the dirt from the Vanity Fair party. Also ahead, a new twist. Martha Stewart off the hook on the most serious count. Is the case against her unraveling? And a country in crisis. We want your view. How involved should the U.S. be in Haiti's transition? Give us a call at 1-800-807-2620.
Coverage of America Votes 2004 is sponsored by AT&T, the world's networking company. For in-depth analysis of this year's presidential race, log on to CNN.com/election.
This just in, you are looking at a CNN exclusive raw videotape that we just got of the U.S. Marines arriving in Haiti, in the Haitian capital of Port-au-Prince. Fewer than 100 Marines have arrived so far, just hours before the United Nations Security Council approved a multinational task force. Now, these Marines in Port-au-Prince, their first job is to secure the capital city, make it safe, provide the foundation for the multinational task force, protect Americans, and secure the embassy. This is just the beginning of what you're going to be seeing of a new American military presence in Haiti. In the meantime, we want to turn now to showbiz and politics. You might remember how several celebrities threw their support behind Wesley Clark or Howard Dean for president. But with both men out of the race, which of the remaining candidates will get star backing? We turn now to our very own CNN Bill Schneider, whom we usually see in a more political setting, but this time he's in Hollywood, having just attended a Vanity Fair party. Not just any party, Bill, but this is like the party, and you were tapping into the political buzz there. So who's the next candidate up for grabs for the Hollywood stars?
Well, Carol, sweetie baby honey cookie.
You got the language down.
I've been to Hollywood political events this week. I've talked to a lot of political activists out here. They're all mobilizing behind, of course, John Kerry. He's the man. They like John Edwards, too, and they all dream of the Kerry-Edwards ticket because they think that's the way to beat George Bush. What's interesting is I went to a young Hollywood professionals reception for John Kerry, and when I asked people, how long have you been supporting John Kerry, they said, well, we're just here for the first time. They were all Wesley Clark people. Hollywood was a big Wesley Clark town because all the Clinton people, Clinton was very big here in Hollywood, all the Clinton people looked at Wesley Clark, they liked him. Norman Lear, the important television producer, was a big fundraiser for Wesley Clark. He was their first choice. He was hot. Madonna endorsed Wesley Clark. But now that Wesley Clark's out of it, they've all gone to John Kerry, and they're raising big money, $250,000 at a fundraiser just the other day for John Kerry.
What's the buzz, Bill, on a VP candidate?
Well, they like John Edwards. They think he's good. They want him in the second spot. They think he'd make a great vice president with John Kerry. A lot of Democrats feel that way. In fact, I would say the ticket that Democrats here would like to see is John Kerry for president, John Edwards for vice president, and Wesley Clark for Secretary of State. And here's something that may be a bit of a surprise. An important Kerry backer here, Maria Shriver. She's been seen at several events.
The First Lady of California.
First Lady of California, the wife of the Republican governor, but also the niece of Senator Edward Kennedy, who is a big Kerry backer. She has been seen at Kerry fundraisers wearing a John Kerry button. Ooh. She's been a Democrat. She's still a Democrat. She's a Kerry Democrat.
Hey, what are the galvanizing issues out there in Hollywood?
Well, Bush. Bush. There was a lot of anger at President Bush, and what really galvanized people here in Hollywood was President Bush's decision this week to support the constitutional amendment that would ban gay marriage. You know, homosexuals are a very important and influential group in Hollywood, very active in the show business community, and that angered an enormous number of Hollywood Democrats and liberals. To a lot of the people I spoke to, they said, you know, that was the last straw. We have got to get rid of George Bush, and that is really galvanizing a lot of support out here for John Kerry.
Hey, Bill, maybe you can clarify a rumor. Rumor has it you wore red hush puppies tonight?
Yes, I did. It's part of my couture costume. I wish you could see them. It is my couturier. That is, if I had seen Joan Rivers and she said, who are you wearing? I would have said hush puppies.
CNN Red, baby. You got it.
That's it.
Thanks very much, Bill Schneider.
Let's do lunch.
We will, baby. Call my agent and And mine will call yours.
That's right.
All right. Take care, Bill. Still ahead on CNN Sunday night, a big break. The judge drops a major charge. The prosecution regroups. What is next for Martha Stewart? And later, passionate about passion. It's bringing in big bucks, but it's also sparking an age-old debate. How did Jesus die? Stay with us.
Coverage of America Votes 2004 is sponsored by AT&T, the world's networking company. For in-depth analysis of this year's presidential race, log on to cnn.com/election.
Taking a look at the headlines tonight and tomorrow, intervening in Haiti. The UN Security Council unanimously approves a multinational force to go to Haiti for up to 3 months. U.S. Marines landed Sunday night at the Port-au-Prince airport to secure the city ahead of its arrival. A written warning. Police are investigating whether notes found at an Oklahoma truck stop are tied to a string of killings. 7 women, 6 of them prostitutes, have been found dead in 4 states. The notes referred to parking lot sin and warned the prostitutes must go. Standing trial again. Jury selection is to begin tomorrow in the state trial of Terry Nichols. Nichols is facing state charges in connection with the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing. He's already serving a life prison sentence on federal charges. Celebrities are in the spotlight in tonight's rap sheet. Some big decisions are expected in both the Martha Stewart and Kobe Bryant cases this week. Here to talk about that from Miami is criminal defense attorney Jane Weintraub. And from Boston, former federal prosecutor Wendy Murphy. Good evening, ladies.
Good to see you, Carol.
Let's talk Martha. All right, the most serious charge dropped. Securities fraud dropped. How is this likely to impact what's left of this trial? I mean, if you were a prosecutor in this case, Wendy, what would you think you had left in your hand?
Well, I'd be very nervous, Carol. You know, I actually predicted that this charge would be dropped because I thought it was a weak case. And here's, I think, what it does that's most harmful to the prosecution. It literally takes out of their ammunition any sense that whatever Martha did in terms of lying, it caused any real harm to real people who are investing in corporate America. I mean, remember, she's being used as a kind of whipping girl. You know, because of her celebrity, she's supposed to be sending a message to corporate America that this is what's going to happen to you if you don't behave. Well, now with this charge gone, all they're left with is the idea that she lied. But that's, you know, but they're going to say, hey, you know, that's not the most important. That's, you know, the moral imperative here is to go after the people who sapped America's wealth. She's not one of them. And I think they're going to use that against the prosecution.
Hey, Wendy, are you wondering why Jane is so quiet tonight?
Yeah, Jane, are you okay?
It's because she can't hear us. They're working on her. They're working on her earpiece. Oh my God, this has got to be her worst nightmare. Anyway,
hey, I
Wendy,
can actually win an argument if you keep her microphone on.
You can. Anyway, we'll continue here. All right. So, what are the prosecutors going to do?
Well,
Jane's going to jump in. Jane's going to jump in.
Lying to investigators is a serious crime. I mean, you know, when the SEC is involved in checking out something as important as insider trading, what Waxel did, and the fact that Martha was involved after the fact in trading on the same misconduct, they're going to talk about how you can't lie about that stuff, and it's a serious crime if you do, and they're going to ask her to punish Martha. I think there's a strong case that she did lie, Carol.
Too bad they don't want to welcome you to the conversation. Sorry you missed it, but Wendy claims that she won the debate. Hey, so let's start from scratch here. Let's start talking about Kobe Bryant. This is going to be a big week in the preliminary hearing because the alleged victim is going to get a chance to testify. And the big question at stake here is how deeply or how more detailed will the defense attorneys be able to ask about her sexual past? Jane, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, first of all, I mean, I think it's very important that everybody know this is going to be a sealed proceeding in which the alleged victim, you know, the girl testifies. And it's going to be the judge who makes the decision, ultimately, whether or not her past sexual conduct is going to come into evidence. Remember, this is not an issue of her morality. This is an issue of her credibility. This is a young lady who goes in and wants to corroborate what happened physically to her when she's had sex with somebody else, at least one other man, within 24 hours before. There's nothing to say that it's not the other man, not Kobe. Kobe Bryant is presumed innocent, and we need to remember that he's the one who's looking to lose his liberty here based on what she claims. Her credibility is the main issue at hand.
Wendy?
You know, Carol, I don't know if this is just karma or God coming back to help Janie. I couldn't hear a word she said. The audio was completely dead to me. Otherwise, I'm sure I'd be screaming and yelling how wrong she is.
All right.
You know, I think there's no question that what's going to come out of this is a whole lot of nothing. You know, they're going to go behind chambers. They're going to go behind closed doors. The victim's going to answer certain questions about who she had sex with, whether she's ever suffered vaginal tearing of any kind. She's going to say, I had sex with one guy. I've never suffered vaginal tearing. And this is going to actually, I think, work to the advantage of the prosecution because it's going to put an end to this issue. Her sex life is irrelevant. It's never going to come out at trial. And after this week, we'll stop talking about it, hopefully.
Wendy, we're not talking about her sex life. We're talking about her credibility. We're not talking about her morality and how many men she had sex with that week. What we are talking about is if she goes in there saying that she only had sex with Kobe Bryant and she had vaginal tears, then of course the inference is it was from Kobe Bryant. Here, we know that's not true because we know,
Janie,
she went and she had those DNA
I'm sure I'd be yelling at you, but I can't hear
a
word you're saying. I'm just certain you're wrong. But
she had the samples of somebody else. You know, his semen in her underwear. So we know that she had sex with someone else. And the issue is she never said no. You know, it's very easy to be in favor of victims' rights here. We're all in favor of victims' rights. But who's the victim?
All right.
I think it's Kobe.
Points except in the court of public opinion for the few folks left out there who actually think Kobe didn't do it.
This had to be. It was informative. But I think this had to be the most dysfunctional rap sheet that I've had with you guys yet. Because I'm the only one who can hear both of you. All right, listen, ladies, we're going to get it all straightened out for next week's rap sheet. So hang in there, all right?
We'll look forward to seeing you then, Carol.
We're going to be duking it out next week. You guys are great. Thanks very much.
I'll be here.
Jane
Thank
Weintraub,
you.
Wendy Murphy.
Good
Still
night.
ahead on CNN Sunday night, working miracles. That's what we need at the box office. Mel Gibson's Passion ascends to the top spot. But is the movie accurate? And later, it's a big movie night in Hollywood. Yeah.
And it's turning out to actually be a big night for our actors who were nominated before but never won. We're going to have a preview and a review of the 76th Annual Academy Awards.
Tonight in our CNN Spotlight, the Mel Gibson film, The Passion of the Christ, rides a religious storm of debate and becomes the #1 box office hit in America. The Passion made more than $76 million this weekend. Now, to put that into perspective, The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, brought in $72 million when it opened last year. No doubt, Passion is having mass appeal, but some question its accuracy. CNN's Beth Nissen explains. And a warning, some of the scenes you're about to see are graphic.
Should viewers of The Passion of the Christ take Mel Gibson's vision as gospel? The work of scores of biblical scholars and historians was summarized in the Newsweek magazine cover story, Who Really Killed Jesus? By managing editor John Meacham, himself a student of biblical history. He's seen the movie twice.
I think the basic means of crucifixion in Gibson's movie is essentially right. This was a terrible way to die.
Only a few of the film's horribly graphic details are in dispute. Gibson shows nails being driven into Christ's palms, which conflicts with archaeological findings.
Most evidence suggests that the nail would go through the wrist, which would obviously physically keep you on the cross.
Otherwise, Gibson's bloody depiction of Christ's suffering on the cross is in accordance with historical sources on this commonly used form of Roman capital punishment.
Death by crucifixion was wretched, horrible, violent. It's the reason we have the word excruciating.
Gibson's film diverges more from historical and even some biblical sources in its depiction of how Jesus was sentenced to death and by whom.
His central historical problem is Pilate. That's where he went sort of off the rails, by making Pilate such a good guy.
The film depicts Pontius Pilate as a Roman leader concerned with justice, reluctant to sentence Jesus to death, but persuaded to do so by a Jewish mob and the temple high priest. A portrayal that doesn't square with historical records of Pilate's tyrannical rule. Gibson chose to use the Bible as his key source, which for historians is problematic.
The gospel accounts may contain important spiritual truths, important theological truths, but they are not necessarily documents in which the chronology of events, the nature of events in time, can be taken as literally true.
And biblical scholars, even Catholic leaders, fault Gibson for how he's used the Gospels, making a composite of the New Testament's 4 varying accounts of the crucifixion. Gibson, for example, ignores a passage from the book of John in which it is the chief priests and temple officers who call for Jesus' crucifixion, and instead blends accounts from the other 3 books that stress the role of the crowd.
If you take the "let his blood be upon us and upon our children" line from Matthew and put it in the larger crowd scene before Pilate, then you get a sense that the Jewish mob made that cry, as opposed to a certain element of the Jewish society at that time. You could come away from this movie believing that the Jews killed Jesus. That's not what happened.
What did happen? Who did kill Jesus?
As a matter of history, Pontius Pilate and the Roman Empire killed Jesus. It was Pontius Pilate saying, if you think you're the king of the Jews, this is what happens to you, because there's only one king of the Jews, and that's Caesar.
Beth Missy, CNN, New York.
We'll be right back. Okay, let's be honest. We know a lot of you are flipping from us to that other network where they're showing a little award show, something about the movies. A lot of you don't feel like watching tonight's entire extravaganza. So we're bringing you a quick hit of all you need to know about that award show and what's happened so far. Tim Robbins won Best Supporting Actor for Mystic River. Renee Zellweger got the Best Supporting Actress award for Cold Mountain. And The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King wins several awards, including one for Best Visual Effects. Let's go now to Hollywood for more on that little award show with CNN's Candace Gibson.
I think maybe like 1 or 2 people are watching that little awards show tonight. Do you think, Carol?
Yeah.
You know, let's talk about the red carpet today and that little award show. It was an exciting evening out here in Hollywood because glamour was back. Take a look there. You have to think about it for a second. Last year, they canceled the red carpet because of the war in Iraq. The year before that was the first Academy Awards after 9/11, so it was definitely toned down. But today, many of the stars had plenty of glitz, they had plenty of jewelry, and the glamour was back in Tinseltown, as you can see. A couple of changes about this year's Academy Awards. For one thing, there was a 5-second delay, the Janet Jackson rule, as it's being called many places. And also, it is a month earlier than it has ever been before. We should point out also on the red carpet that you never know who you're going to meet. And for the actors, this is really like homecoming, a reunion. They get to see people they haven't seen in several years. We caught up with Diane Keaton and Sofia Coppola.
This is my daughter. She was my daughter in Godfather 3. I can't stand it. Here we are. She's all grown up. She's beautiful and she's a genius. So what are you going to do?
Well, the folks with the Oscars are really hoping for better ratings for this year's show. Last year, they averaged about 33 million viewers. Back in 1998, when Titanic won, they had 55 million viewers. So what they're hoping now is that because The Lord of the Rings was as much a blockbuster as Titanic, that people will tune in to watch the Oscars tonight. Carol?
All right. Well, we here at CNN have given the short version so everybody can sound smart at breakfast tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. Candace Gibson out there in Hollywood. Well, in case you missed it, CNN's Darren Kagan captured the Hollywood reaction to tonight's broadcast delay in an interview, which is hysterical, Robin Williams before that little award show.
Now, are you aware that there's this 5-second delay?
Yes.
Not for us. We're live, Robin.
5 delay. And then they do that witness protection thing. If a nipple appears, like, I'm no longer here. I'm living in Missouri with the name Anthony.
What? Thanks for watching. We wrap up our program with Last Call. Tonight's question, how involved should the U.S. be in Haiti's transition? And here's how some of you responded.
Last time we deployed troops over to Haiti, absolutely nothing changed, nothing was done, nothing. The United States has its hand in absolutely everything that's going on around the world. We have our own problems.
The Haitian people have to learn how to manage themselves. They should do whatever they can to help these people. People are suffering a lot. And I think the American help is really, really needed over there.
I think that it's utterly ridiculous that anybody would not want to help another human
in this world, regardless of them being one of the poorest, or they quote-unquote say the poorest nation in the West Hemisphere.
I think that the United States' resistance to helping out Haiti has to do with the demographics of the people, and I'd like to see U.S. troops go in and try to stabilize Haiti.